Hi and welcome to the final instalment of Enid Blyton's The Ship of Adventure. Chapter 28 is excitingly called Escape. Plans were made while they ate. "Tim, I want you to take the two girls off the island on your plane," said Bill. "I don't want anyone exposed to danger here 1 moment longer than necessary. Andros, you have to get rid of the 2 men down in the boats. You are to take charge of the better boat of the 2 and go off with the rest of us." "What, Bill, do you mean to say we're going to leave a boat for those scoundrels to escape in?" cried Jack indignantly. "No, I'm going to ask Andros if he will kindly remove some small thing from the engine of the boat so that it won't start up when the men want it to," said Bill with a laugh. "I think it would be a very good thing to leave them here, prisoners, till we report them, and find out whether Mr. Eppie has bought the island or not. If he has, he's in a strong position, of course, and nothing we say will be listened to with very much attention." "He's always buying and selling islands," put in Lucian. "I expect he has bought this one all right. He's well known for that." "You may well be right," said Bill. "Do you want to come with us, Lucian, or stay and welcome your uncle out of the column?" Excuse me while I finish my drink. There was no doubt about what Lucian wanted to do. He was going with Bill and the others. They all felt a lot better after the meal. Tim set off for the plane with the 2 girls, who hugged Bill before they went and begged him to keep himself safe. "I shan't set off in the plane till I hear your motorboat starting up and going off," said Tim. "Goodbye for the present. Come on, girls. What people are going to say when I land with you at the airport, I cannot imagine. You're too dirty for anything. Regular little grubs." Andros, Lucian, Jack and Philip set off for the boats. It was decided that only Lucian should go right up to the boats and give the false message. He was to say that the men were wanted up in the temple courtyard and give them directions as to how to get there. As soon as Bill spotted them coming, he was to leave the broken column where he was on guard and go to the boats, keeping himself out of sight of the 2 men. "Then we'll be in one of the boats in a jiffy, off and away," said Jack joyfully. "That will show Mr. Eppie." Andros led the way. He knew the other creek well, although he didn't consider it as good as the one he had landed in. When they got near the boats, Lucian went on alone, while the others hid themselves behind bushes. Lucian was nervous, but he tried not to show it. He went up to the boats and shouted loudly, "Ahoy there, where are you?" The 2 men appeared. Lucian began to say something loudly in Greek, and the 2 men nodded. They leapt from the boat to the beach and made their way up the shore. Lucian was telling them where to go, pointing this way and that. "Well, I hope he's telling them correctly," thought Jack, remembering how Lucian had been so hopeless at trying to find the way to the boats that morning. "Let's hope he's been more careful at marking the way this time." The men soon disappeared. Andros raced to the boats. He chose the smaller one of the 2 as being the better. He went to the other boat and tinkered with the engine. He withdrew something from it and threw it into the other boat, where it fell with a thud. He grinned at the boys. "That boat no good now," he said. "Engine dead. We get in here quick." They all got in. Andros tinkered about with the engine there too. It started up quickly and he stopped it at once. The boys wondered how old Bill was getting on. Had he spotted the 2 boatmen? Was he even now coming down to the boat, keeping himself unseen? They hoped so. Suddenly they heard shouts and they all sat up straight in their boats. What was that? Bill was tearing down to the shore at top speed. Behind him were the 2 men also running at top speed. Andros acted quickly. He started up the engine at once and called to the boys to give a hand to Bill when he came. Red in the face and panting hard, Bill raced up to the boat. Willing hands dragged him in. And almost as he touched the deck of the boat, it was off and away, its engine making a terrific noise in the calm of the little creek. The 2 men leapt into the other boat at once, shouting angrily. Andros gave a malicious grin. Bill saw it and knew what it meant. The other boat was useless. No amount of trying would make the second boat start up. Its engine was dead. The two men realised that Andros must have tampered with it, and they stood up, shaking their fists and shouting unintelligently. Jack and Philip enjoyed it all thoroughly, but poor Lucian was as white as a sheet. "Well, we're off," said Bill, getting his breath again. "Gosh, I had a narrow escape. I was watching for the men, but they came on me unawares. They must have guessed there was some trickery about, because they suddenly made a beeline for me and gave me a jolly hard run. I was glad I'd got all directions from Andros as to where the creek was. I nearly missed my way as it was." "Any sound from Eppie and Co?" asked Jack. Bill shook his head. "No, but they'll have heard the shouts, and I expect they'll be out of the column by now and having a good snoop round. They'll join up with the other two men, and then Mr. Eppie will have a few choice things to say to the two men who left the boats, and so gave us the means of escape. I expect he's thinking of quite a lot of things to say to Lucian too." Lucian gave a feeble smile. He was still very white. "I shall get a fearful beating," he said. "You won't," said Bill. "I'll see to that. I'll give your uncle something to think about when I get back to the airport island. He's going to find himself in hot water very, very soon. I don't care whether he's bought that island or not. He's a rogue." The sound of an aeroplane's engine attracted their attention. "It's Tim's plane," cried Jack, and he stood up in the motorboat and waved. "Ahoy there, Tim!" The plane swooped down low, and Kiki gave a squawk of terror. Mickey hid his head under Philip's arm. The boys cheered and yelled. "Goodbye. Good luck, Tim." "Hello there, girls." At about 6 o'clock in the evening, the motorboat arrived at the airport island. The first thing they saw was the Viking Star, still in the harbour, still lying quiet. The second thing they saw was Tim on the quayside, and he had the girls with them. They had landed a long time ago, had had a good meal, and had come down to the quay to wait for the others. "I've been to the police," said Tim. "Told the chief you had something to report, and would he please not go home till he'd seen you. He's all hot and bothered. It isn't often something happens here." Bill laughed. "Well, I expect the report will really have to go to the mainland to be dealt with, but as Andros comes from here, and Mr. Eppie hired the boats from here, and presumably saw lawyers here if he bought the island, it's best to see the chief of police of this island." The chief was a small, bird-like man with an intelligent face and quick, darting eyes. He spoke English very well. He was thrilled to think there might be some important news for him. He listened intently to Bill's remarkable story, asking a few questions now and again. The children added little bits too. When the inspector heard of the treasure, he almost fell off his chair. "We must find out if this man Eppie did buy the island," he said. "I know him. He's always buying islands and selling them. I do not like him. He's crazy." A good deal of telephoning went on then, with a few hellos from a rather bored Kiki, and some Mr. Sirs and some 1-2-3 pops as well. At last the little man turned to Bill, his face beaming. "Paul Eppie did try to buy the island, but it is not for sale. It is not his, it belongs to our government." "Good," said the children all together. "What a nerve Mr. Eppie has," said Dinah. "I hope he will not get away with any of that unique treasure," said the inspector. "He's not an honest man." "He can't," said Jack with a grin. "Andros tampered with the only motorboat there. He can't use it. He's a prisoner there, and so are the rest of them." "I think that's very good," beamed the bird-like man. He turned to Bill. "If you'll be kind enough to put in a report, sir, a detailed one, for me to forward to the mainland, I would be very much obliged. The children should read it and sign it too, and Andros here, he should sign the bit that refers to his doings in the matter." "Right," said Bill, getting up to go. "Well, that's that. I've had some thrilling adventures with these four, but this beats the lot. I only wish we could have a little bit of that treasure." "Oh, sir, you shall," said the inspector earnestly. "I will see to it personally. My government will be very honoured to allow you to choose whatever you want from it." "A carved dagger for me," said Philip at once. "Gosh, what will the chaps at school say?" "Come along," said Bill. "We'll go on board the Viking Star and take Tim to dinner there with us. I want a good bath a good shave, a good meal, and a good sleep in a comfortable bed. And they all went off on board the Viking Star, happy and excited, talking 19 to the dozen. Chapter 29. Happy ending after all. In the night, the Viking Star sailed once more. Bill did not hear the engine starting up, nor did any of the 5 children. Kiki woke up, poked her head out from under her wing, and then put it back again. It was quite astonishing to find themselves at sea again. They were making for Italy. "Oh dear, we've left the treasure island far behind," said Lucy Ann mournfully. "Don't be a humbug," said Jack. "You know you're jolly glad you escaped from it." "Well, yes, I know that," said Lucy Ann, "but I just hate leaving all that treasure." "I never even saw it," Jack reminded her. "I feel I've been done out of something, all because that idiot of a Kiki took it to her head to fly off my shoulder just as we were looking for the treasure. Nitwit." "Nitwit?" echoed Kiki pleasantly. "Tit-bit." She flew down and looked at a plate of grapes. "No, you don't," said Jack, and removed it from her. "No titbits for a nitwit. And anyway, you've helped yourself to about 200 grapes already. You're a greedy pig, Kiki." "I suppose the rest of this cruise is going to be as dull as ditch water," said Philip. He glanced at the little carved ship on the dressing table of his cabin. "Golly, weren't we thrilled when we found the treasure map inside? Bill says we've got to give it up to the Greek Museum, but we can keep the redrawn map, the one we used, if we can get it back from Mr. Eppie." "I wonder what Mother will say to all of this," said Dinah suddenly. "She won't be a bit pleased with Bill, will she? She'll never speak to him again." "Well, that would mean we'd never see him again," said Lucy Ann, horrified at the thought. "I simply love Bill. I wish he was my father. It's horrid not having a father or a mother. You're lucky, you and Philip, Dinah. You've got a mother even if you haven't got a father." "Well, you share our mother with us, don't you?" said Philip at once. "You call her Auntie Allie and she treats you as if she was your mother." "Yes, I know. She's a darling," said Lucy Ann, and she said no more. She kept worrying about Bill. Suppose Aunt Allie really kept her word and refused to speak to Bill again because he'd taken them into danger. That really would be dreadful. It was maddening to sail away from all the romantic little islands, just as they'd had such an adventure. All the children longed to know what had happened after they left. What did Mr. Eppie do? What happened to him? How did he eventually get off the island? Or was he still there? And what about the treasure? That fabulous, amazing treasure hidden in the round treasure chamber deep down in the heart of the old ruined city. Bill promised to let them know all he heard, and he was as curious as the children. The Viking Star put in at Naples and then went on to Spain. It was there that Bill first got the news. He came straight to the children. "Well, you'll be glad to know that Eppie and Co. couldn't get off the island. He almost went mad with rage about it. Then that police inspector chap sent a boat there, and what's more, he went in it himself and had the whole lot arrested there and then. What a shock for Mr. Eppie." "What about the treasure?" asked Dinah eagerly. "It's all been brought out of the round rock chambers, and it's being sent to the mainland to be examined and valued. A list of things will be sent to us, and we are each to choose a memento." "Gosh," said Jack, "I'll have a dagger like Philip then. I bet the girls will have some jewellery." "Is it the Andra treasure?" asked Lucy Ann. "They seem to think so," said Bill. All their eyes went to the little ship on the dressing table. There it stood, its sails set, its Greek name showing on its side. The Andra. What a ship of adventure it had been. "What's going to happen about Lucian?" asked Dinah. Lucian was still on the Viking Star, but not with them, not with his aunt and uncle this time. His aunt, in hysterical tears, had remained on the airport island to be with her husband. Bill had offered to take Lucian back to England and park him with a school friend till it was time for him to return to his school. "Lucian is to go to other relations in future for the holidays," said Bill. "That is, unless we can occasionally put up with him. I feel sorry for that lad." There was silence. "It's awful when you feel you've got to do something for someone that you don't like, just because you're sorry for someone," said Lucy Ann with a sigh. I don't know whether Aunt Ally will like to have him anyway. And oh, Bill, do you think she's going to be very cross with you about this adventure?" "Yes, I think she is," said Bill. "I telephoned her from Italy and told her a little. Perhaps I should have waited till we saw her." She wasn't at all pleased. "Oh dear, we shan't have a nice time the rest of the holes," said Lucy Ann. "I don't like it when Aunt Ally is upset or cross. She'll be tired too after looking after her Aunt Polly. I do wish this adventure was going to have a nice end, not a nasty one." Everyone was quite glad when at last the Viking Star arrived at Southampton at the end of her long cruise. After the exciting adventure in the middle of it, things had seemed very tame and a bit dull. It was quite lovely to be on firm land again and going home. Mrs. Mannering was not going to meet them. She was leaving her aunt the day before and going home to get things ready for the family. Lucian was to be left with a school friend of his on the way. They were all going home in Bill's car. The boy was sad to say goodbye when the time came. He stammered and stuttered as he held out his hand to each of them in turn. "Goodbye. I do hope I'll see you again. I've had a lovely time, and I'm sorry for anything I did you didn't like. And copied Kiki in delight. Pa, send for the doctor." "Shut up, Kiki. Behave yourself," said Jack, but Lucian didn't mind. "I shall miss old Kiki," he said, "and Mickey too. Goodbye, Mickey. Think of me sometimes." He almost ran from them, and Lucy Ann stared after him, rather distressed. Poor old Lucian. He was almost crying. He's really rather a nice old... "Nitwit," said everyone, and Kiki yelled out too. "Nitwit, send for the doctor." "Well, he's nice for a nitwit then," said Lucy Ann. She settled down in the car again. "Now for home, and dear old Aunt Ally. I've got a frightfully big hug saved up for her." Mrs. Mannering was delighted to see them, though she was rather cool to Bill. She had a wonderful tea ready for them, and Kiki screeched it with delight to see a plate laid for her, and Mickey with a lovely fruit salad. "1, 2, 3, go," she said, and settled down to eat, keeping an eye on Mickey's plate, hoping she could snatch a titbit from it. After tea they all sat in the comfortable sitting room, and Bill lit his pipe. He looked rather gloomy, the children thought. "Well, Ally," he began, "I suppose you want to hear about it all, the hunt for the Andra treasure, and all that happened." "We had some jolly narrow escapes," said Jack, stroking Kiki, "and you'll be glad to know, Aunt Ally, that Kiki got 2 grand nips at Mr. Eppie's ear." They began their tale, Mrs. Mannering listening with amazement. Her eyes went continuously to the little carved ship on the mantelpiece, put proudly there by Philip as soon as he reached home. "There," said Philip when he had finished the tale. "What do you think of that?" Mrs. Mannering did not answer. She looked at Bill. He would not meet her eyes, but knocked out his pipe very hard on the fender. "Oh, Bill," said Mrs. Mannering sadly, "you promised me, and you broke your word. I shall never trust you again. You promised faithfully not to lead the children into any kind of adventure again. I wouldn't have asked you to look after them if I hadn't trusted you. I can't trust you any more." "Aunt Ally, what do you mean you can't trust Bill any more?" cried Lucy Ann indignantly, and she went to Bill to put her arms round him. "Can't you see he's the nicest, most trustable person in the whole world?" Mrs. Mannering could not help laughing. "Oh, Lucy Ann, you're very fierce all of a sudden. It's just that every time I leave you alone with Bill, you do get into horrible danger. You know you do." "Well, why can't you and Bill always be with us together?" demanded Lucy Ann. "I don't see why you can't marry each other, and then we'd always have Bill, and you could keep an eye on him to see he doesn't lead us into adventures." Bill exploded into an enormous shout of laughter. Mrs. Mannering smiled broadly. The others looked at each other. "I say," said Philip eagerly, "that's a wizard idea of Lucy Ann's. We'd have a father then, all of us. Gosh, fancy having Bill for a father. Wouldn't the other boys envious?" Bill stopped laughing and then looked soberly round at the 4 beaming children. Then he looked at Mrs. Mannering. He raised his eyebrow inquiringly. Well, Ali, he asked in a curiously quiet voice, do you think it's a good idea? She looked at him and then smiled round at the eager children. She nodded. Yes, it's really a very good idea, Bill. I'm surprised we've never thought of it before. That's settled then, said Bill. I'll take these 4 kids on and you'll see to it that I don't lead them into any more adventures, Ali. Is that agreed? Well, this adventure has a wonderful ending after all, said Lucy Ann, drawing a deep breath. Her eyes shone like stars. Good old Bill. Oh, I'm so happy now. God save the king! The Queen, said Kiki excitedly. Polly, put the kettle on. Send for the doctor. Pop goes Bill. And that's how Enid Blyton's The Ship of Adventure ends. If you've enjoyed this story, there are others in the series. And at the back of the book, there's a recommendation that you try The Circus of Adventure. I hope you've enjoyed finishing off that story, Mrs. Purchase's Bubble. I'm only sorry we didn't get to do it in our Teams meetings just before we broke up. Have a lovely summer holiday. Keep reading, keep having fun, and stay safe. See you soon. Bye-bye.